Hey.
Hey, hey, Heather. All right,
Hey.
let's go ahead and get this started. So, hello and welcome to I can't believe this is our sixth episode already of the Well Project's A Girl Like Me Live, which is a new interactive video live streaming series, advancing health and wellness discussions and education among women living with and vulnerable to HIV. Every 2 weeks, ICC Coven will sit down with different co-hosts to chat about key topics in our communities. In today's episode, I will talk with Heather O'Connor from ICWNA. We'll be talking and discussing breastfeeding and HIV. Yo, I'm so excited for this. I am so excited. I think everybody is excited for it. So we're going to just start by I want you to introduce yourself and give us your affiliations and how did we get here?
Yeah, cool. So my name is Heather O'Connor. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I actually first found my way into the world of HIV advocacy by becoming a blogger for A Girl Like Me. So that's where I first, dipped my toes into the water there. And actually, through the lovely Krista Martell, I was introduced to Martha Cameron of ICWNA, the executive director, and started working as their communication specialist. And so that's been about a year now. And we're getting into all sorts of stuff and have, been able to partner with the Well Project on some U equals U and breastfeeding stuff. And yeah, so that's where we are now. And I'm so excited to be here.
Wait, I have to go back and touch on it. It's only been a year you've been in advocacy.
Yeah. Yeah. It
It's
has
it.
been.
Wow.
Which also means my son is almost a year old already. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. But
Okay, there's so much to unpack there. Okay.
yeah.
1 year, Heather has been doing advocacy work. And when you began blogging for the Well Project for a Girl Like Me, your first blogs were like huge. Like it wasn't like this small thing. Can you share with us what you were blogging about?
Girl. Well, I started blogging. I think my first blog was just about like pregnancy and quarantine and anxiety. Is a multifaceted thing, because I had been working as an in-home ABA therapist before the quarantine happened, and I knew in my heart I wanted to get into the world of advocacy. That's where I needed to be, but I didn't know how to do it. So I, just sort of started reaching out to people, and I connected with Maria Meha. Is that how we say your last name, Maria? I don't know if she's on here.
I always say it wrong too.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I said it wrong. But she actually connected me with the Well Project. And yeah, so when I started blogging, I was blogging about quarantine. I was blogging about being pregnant. I have a 2.5-year-old who was like 1 and some change at the time. And also dealing with like pregnancy and mental health issues. I've had depression and anxiety in my past and had to stop all of my medication cold turkey when I found out that I was pregnant. So there was a lot going on, and I had a lot to say, and I just needed somewhere to say it in an environment where other women could understand truly where I was coming from.
And A Girl Like Me, I have found in my own experience is such a great platform for that. Like you I know they've never censored my voice. I can just get on there, and express whatever it is that I'm feeling at the moment. And more than likely it resonates with someone. So then I can have this side conversation and feel okay. Feel like I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I know that one of my blogs, which I didn't think was really a big thing at the moment when it got posted, but it was called Liquid Gold.
Mm-hmm.
So that was me going back, and at the time I only had Zion, my now 10, almost 11-year-old. He he was a little older, and I never planned on having any more kids or anything, but I could just remember, just watching other women breastfeed. And, August is National Breastfeeding Awareness Month. And a month like this would normally trigger something inside of me, make me a little sad, or envious or jealous, just as like when I would watch the moms at the stores, just pull their breast out and give it to their kids or
Mhm.
something. And it was something that I knew that I could not do because I was living with HIV. So, in touching in that, those feelings and those emotions, I wrote Liquid Gold. And I use GIFs in my blogs.
How could you not?
Picture it was like a scene out of The Lion King, where Rafiki goes to hold Simba up, but
Hmm.
it like turns and he throws the baby. And that is how I felt,
Yeah.
postpartum, just
Hmm.
I don't this baby don't need me, and I've done everything that I was supposed to do already because I couldn't breastfeed. Like, sometimes you can't see how much good things are going, like how many good things are going on. I was able to conceive, I was able to carry, but I wasn't able to feed this child. So F all of this, like what do I and then, and I can't believe it's only been a year, here's somebody like you. I think that I ran into you for the first time at the Well Projects, when we did that expert consensus statement.
Hmm.
And you were just like this fresh face. And it was another woman, I believe, that was from Canada who had twins and she breastfed. And my mouth just dropped because, well, how they get to do this?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did that get so? And I love how you are able to speak of your experiences, because you've
Mhm.
breastfed both of your children, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've been positive with both of your children as well.
Since 2016.
So how did that happen?
It wasn't anything that I had even thought of. I became pregnant with my daughter in 2018, and I remember I had just moved to the area that I live in now. So I had to get new care providers to begin with. I got a new infectious disease doctor. I went to visit that infectious disease doctor after finding out that I was pregnant to learn that she was moving to a different practice. So, I met her and then she sort of, pieced out. And then the next time that I had an appointment, a follow up with my infectious disease doctor, my new infectious disease doctor, we had a talk about, the pregnancy and everything and infant feeding options. And I didn't even let him speak after he said, "How are you going to feed your baby?" I said, "I'm going to use formula. I'm aware of the CDC recommendations. I'm aware that I need to use formula, because I was very much in a position where I had my own self stigma about living with HIV and being pregnant and having children, to where I was ready to just lay back and follow all the rules. Like, tell me what to do, how to do this safely. I'm terrified, low key. Like, I want to make sure that my child, that I don't transmit HIV to my child." So he's actually the one who asked me if I'd heard about the PROMISE studies in Africa, which the PROMISE studies were a study done. I think it was like 2000. I can't remember what year it was, but it was among a group of mothers living with HIV on antiretroviral drugs with an undetectable viral load, and they all nursed their children. And this, basically, the findings of the study were that the risk of transmission rate from mother to child when mom was undetectable was less than 1%, like way less than 1%. So when my infectious disease doctor was telling me this, he also said that it's recommended that the child also be on prophylaxis during the time that you're breastfeeding, which allows or prevents any blips in your viral load. So, say if for any reason throughout the course of breastfeeding you were to have a blip in your viral load and you were no longer undetectable, then the prophylaxis would account for that. And I just took that into consideration. That was the beginning of my pregnancy. I went back and forth 1,000 times, got to the hospital, started my baby on formula because I was afraid to bring up the conversation due to the stigma behind it. And I just had, I always say, like, I had this like maternal instinct or whatever, that I should be nursing my baby, that I should be feeding my baby from my body. And so I told a nurse that I would like to speak with a lactation consultant, and I'd like them to coordinate with my infectious disease doctor because I would like to breastfeed my child. This is in the middle of the night. The next day, the lactation consultant and head nurse came to my room, and were willing to talk to my infectious disease doctor. They coordinated. And I was given the stamp of approval to go ahead and start pumping and giving my baby my milk. Um, and so I guess that's the start of it. And ultimately the main reason why I decided to do it was because I did get the support from my infectious disease doctor. If he had not brought it up, if he had not been behind me and been a voice of advocacy for me, I wouldn't have had the courage or the ability to advocate for myself and my child. So that's a huge part of it.
So I'm not going to cry as much this week as I cried, with our last stream. But it just is warming to hear that your provider would even bring that conversation to you. And I love how you are able to address your privilege in that, because that conversation skipped me. It skipped me back in 2010 when I got pregnant with Zion and gave birth. It skipped me this time. Matter of fact, after, I guess we met in October for that consensus study. Sorry, we have an airplane flying by. But that was October. I found out in February of this year that I was pregnant. And so, coming off of that high from sitting around with all these people that agreed, that there probably is some great in looking into women living with HIV breastfeeding, and that it possibly, like, it can be done, we need more research, all of this. And I'm going into my doctor's office with that attitude, like, yes, I want to breastfeed. Y'all can use me for research if you need to. Like, I'm willing to do all of this. And to be met with the resistance that I was met with, oh my goodness. It was like being on this great high, like, on a balloon, and somebody just popped it. And this is very early in pregnancy. And it's hard to not, refer back to the negative emotions and feelings that I had with that first pregnancy, because now I thought it would be different. That doctor, she told me that if that was something that I wanted to do, that for one, that I would need to be quiet about it. Don't tell anybody, because they are the pediatrician, one of them here, but the one that they work with is known to call DHS on parents that decide to breastfeed while living with HIV, breastfeed or just feed. So I definitely didn't want DHS called on me. I don't need those people in my business.
No.
As well as, there would be no doctor in America that would work with me if that is what I wanted to do. And I couldn't understand it, because I know people, and you being, the first one that pops in my head, I know people that live in America who have breastfed and who have not been referred to DHS. So after that call, that was sometime, in February. After that call, I called you. I was like, yo, like, how did you avoid, the conversation of DHS and all of that? How was you able to get there? Because it seems so unfair. And there are so many disparities, and you hate to just say that it's because, you look a certain type of way and I look a certain type of way, or because we live, in different areas. You hate to say that, but sometimes it kind of, it feels like that, and it seems like that. And I love, once again, that you're able to address those things. To have a provider come to you and say, how do you want to feed your child? Like, I don't even know how I would have answered that. I think I would have been just as surprised as you were.
Right.
Um, So
Yeah.
yes, I thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I thank you so much for getting up and using your voice and just being there for so many of us that are wanting to. I mean, I think that you're reaching so many people. And once again, I'd like to say thank you.
So are you, girlfriend. And I just want to say, like, I know that we've had this conversation before, and like, yeah, you say like you hate to say those things that because someone looks like me, like I would get support, but like the more we tiptoe around it, and the more we're afraid to say the wrong thing, or we're afraid to step on toes, like we need to just keep bringing it up, and as a white woman, like if I don't bring it up, then it's not being talked about, it's not, and you need, like, white people need to talk about it. They need to talk about their privilege. They need to call it out for their Black sisters, you know what I mean? And say, like, why is this happening, in our Milky Mamas group, which I'm sure we'll like get into that a little bit more, but like there were two moms, same gestation, same part of the world, and like one mother was receiving support to breastfeed and the other wasn't. One was white, one was Black. What's the difference, and I mean, it just, the more you call it out, the more it gets talked about, and it needs to get talked about because it's not fair. It's not fair, and it shouldn't be tiptoed around. So we got to say it. We got to keep saying it, no matter how uncomfortable it is. You got to bring it into the room, and you need to talk about it. Um,
Thank you.
yeah,
Like,
I got you.
I definitely, okay. It gets heard a little differently once you hear a white woman say it than when you hear a Black woman or
Mhm.
a Black man or anybody. We have for so many years been fighting, and it gets tiresome and it gets like very disheartening, and people always they'll claim that you're pulling a certain card when no, clearly this is what it is. This is, but you'll have the majority looking at you like you are just seeking sympathy or just using this, and no. So that also is very helpful, and I really appreciate you pointing it out, because society needs to hear more voices like yours. Need to, because clearly even when it comes to our health care, we are treated differently just
Yes.
because of the color of our skin. And I thought that was, I don't know, it pisses me off sometimes, but you keep moving, and you join community, and I'm so grateful that you are a part of our community.
Thanks.
So let's see. Milky Mamas, you brought that up, which is now called the Milky Movement.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us what that is?
Yeah, totally. So the Milky Movement, which is now called the Milky Movement, not just to be inclusive to all birthing parents who don't identify as like being a mother or having breastfeeding, but they chest feed, is also called the Milky Movement, MOO, because both my daughter and my son, I call like nursing Milky Moose with them. So like Aurora calls it like Milky Moose, and so that's where that came from. But yeah, so it honestly just started out as a support group via the app Telegram, which is like WhatsApp. It's just another platform like that, and just for birthing parents living with HIV with an interest in breast or chest feeding, to just be in a space and talk about it, to have the conversation, and to just create a space that they knew was okay to come and ask questions, to inquire, or to talk about their grievances. Like you said with Zion, you weren't able to breastfeed, and that's a traumatic experience, I would think, because your body goes through growing this human being, giving life to this human being, and then naturally wants to feed this human being, and you have to suppress that natural process of the body, and that to me is traumatic, because not only is it something that you're going against like the natural processes of your body, but it's also a reminder that you're living with HIV, because
I'm going to cry again. Like the tears are coming. It's
I
the
wish I could
hormones, I
hug you.
promise. I would love a hug.
Yes.
Because when you say something like that, I can remember Zion stayed in the NICU because he was premature.
Yeah.
And he was there for 9 days. So I stood in the shower of the Ronald McDonald House, which is where parents go when their children are in the NICU. So I'm already in this place, and my breast started getting really big, hard, and gorged. And I
Mhm.
watched my milk just pour down the drain. And I
Mhm.
felt so toxic to my own baby.
Yeah.
And I already had felt like I felt him a little bit because now he had to be hooked up. I got one, I got tissue this time, y'all. I was prepared. So uh, my body had already felt them, and he had to be hooked up to these machines, and I didn't make them to term. And now I can't feed them. So that was so hard. Then it's the reminder in the shower watching the milk go away. Then it's the reminder laying in the bed because you can't lay down on your stomach or any type of way because your breast hurt. Then having to put the cabbage leaves on it. Like, it was just so much reminder of how maybe I had made the wrong decision in having this baby. And that felt so bad. So I don't know. This conversation is full of so much hope. I'm sorry. I'm in Milky Mamas too, the Milky Movement
Yeah.
part of it. And I'm learning so much from y'all. Keep going.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. I mean, feel those feelings because it's real. Like that's so real. And I felt all of those feelings in the hospital, but the only difference is that I had the support there from my infectious disease doctor to say something, and then that was able to move forward. But I was feeling like that was happening to me. My milk was coming in, and so I can't imagine that. That's it's so hard in a world where the narrative is breast is best, you need to breastfeed. But then, even without living with HIV in the hospital, it's like breast is best, but then there's a severe lack of lactation support in the hospital. And even if you do get that support in the hospital, then you go home, and then what happens? You have a clogged duct, you get mastitis, and that increases the risk of transmission. What do you do? Like, there's so many questions. And so that's what the Milky Movement is for, is for all the support and all of that information, and just that constant, I'm here, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. Like, let's see how we can support one another, because it's needed. I mean, postpartum is so hard. Breastfeeding is so hard. Chest feeding is so hard. It's just a multifaceted thing. And then you have to, think about medication adherence for yourself, keeping that viral load undetectable, and then medication adherence to baby as well, and you're not sleeping, let's be real, and your body hurts, you just pushed a baby out or had a C-section, there's so many factors weighing into making postpartum so hard for a woman or birthing parent living with HIV. That there needs to be an outlet, and there needs to be connections and support, and that's just what I want the Milky Movement to be. I
And it
just
has been, because like I have learned so much just through the different moms that are coming through the group, and their questions and their real life, you know in the moment experiences. We watched a girl the other day, she was ready to give up, and
Mhm.
I I didn't know what to say to her, but because you have also that lived experience, like your patience, and your compassion and nurturance, you were able to, talk her back. And I know that she appreciated it, and I appreciated watching that exchange. Because I thought that you just put your breast in the baby's mouth. Or I didn't know that it was like all this process.
Oh.
Apparently it doesn't go like that.
you know It does seem like it may go that way for some people, but for most, I don't think that it happens that easily. Although, I mean, the child, that's something to acknowledge as well, is there's that innate instinct for the child to find the breast and to get to the milk. They smell your milk, and so So the child is already born with that instinct there, and then not having the support to know how to make that connection and make it happen is really tough. And then, yeah, not having the support to do it all together is just heart
Support is
wrenching.
so important. Like you've mentioned it a couple of times, but it absolutely makes such a difference.
Mm-hmm.
um to be at my OBGYN office now, which I'm so grateful. I made that change very early in my pregnancy. So
Mm-hmm.
now I have like a high risk OBGYN. Every appointment, my caseworker is there and she has an assistant. Then I have a high risk nurse. Then I'm in the same building with maternal fetal medicine. And, all of these people is just all wrap around support and it feels so good. And they won't take their hands off of me until a year postpartum. That is probably one of the best things that
Wow.
I could have, learned, because I feel like a lot of times after the birth, the mom just, or the birthing parent just gets thrown back into
Mm-hmm.
society, and we still need support, because I
Mm-hmm.
know I definitely experienced postpartum heavy, heavy. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that was the name I was able to put on it at the time, but I definitely was not feeling the best. Um, so yeah, I'm very happy with how this is going. I went to thank you, Krista, because I was going to U equals U next. Um, Okay, so U equals U. For people that don't know what that is undetectable equals untransmittable. And the question is, do you think U equals U has advanced the conversation of breastfeeding and HIV? Something like that. I paraphrased a little bit. Um, I'm going to respond first and then I'll get your input, Heather. So the first time I heard about U equals U was at a conference or something, but I felt like it was something I already had been experiencing because I had been married and had sex and had a baby, and I hadn't transmitted the virus. Like, I took my medication because that's what they told me would keep me alive. And then also, as a positive consequence of that, I saw that I wasn't transmitting the virus to anybody. So for it to now have a name, U equals U, that was so great. And I saw how long it took for the CDC to, even signed on. And it seemed like they signed on with some hesitance as well. So it's like a very specific thing. Undetectable equals untransmittable. If you're undetectable, if your viral load is undetectable for a certain amount of time, and it's only covering sex, it does
Mm-hmm.
not cover, anything else. So although we could probably, pretty much say that, yeah, it is what it is, they haven't signed on to that yet. And not unfortunately, it just is what it is. We're in the United States, and it's who makes the recommendations and, a lot for
Mm-hmm.
our care. So, but being that U equals U is a thing, do you feel like that has made the conversation around breastfeeding and HIV different?
Um, you know, I'm sure. And I only say it in that way because, I was diagnosed in 2016, and I don't, I'm trying to remember the first occurrence that I actually heard, like U equals U. Um, so I mean, yeah, definitely the conversation has changed, but I haven't been around in the game too long. And so my experience was very much just like myself living with HIV, navigating this world. And it wasn't until after having children that I connected with other advocates in the advocacy world, and the doors sort of opened, and I started educating myself on that. Now that I am here, I definitely think that there needs to be a space for women and birthing parents. Like, this needs to be assessed. And I know that there is there are the promise studies, there is science to back up that the transmission from mother, birthing parent to child through breast or chest feeding can be virtually eliminated with antiretrovirals. But then there's some conversation about, is there some cell associated virus that can be activated in the child's body? and this the science needs to be done, like the research needs to be done, but the space needs to be created for this to happen, you know. And I just, the World Health Organizations, they recommend for outside of the US exclusive breastfeeding in low resource countries because the risk of infant mortality due to unclean water that they would use for formula, and things such as diarrhea or diseases associated with that, the mortality rate is way higher than the transmission rate from mother to child through breastfeeding. But I do have to say that since, you know, starting this conversation about U equals U and breastfeeding and moving this movement forward, I've had so many women reach out to me from Africa saying, we want information on how to not transmit this virus to our children, you know. And so it's just so confusing, and just sort of there's a duality to it, because in the United States, like we have this information and we have these resources and the facility to move forward and to continue this research and to nail down these facts, you know. And we're just sort of recommending use formula, you know, let's use formula, but we have the means to push this forward and to get this information out there. So yeah, I mean, it's totally important to continue this conversation, and we're coming for you, CDC. We're going to have conversations about it because I mean, as much as the CDC is also going to say breast is best, breast milk is an amazing elixir. You know, it's a life-saving elixir, and it is. The science is there. Like, breast milk is magical. It truly is. And so we need to start thinking about our babies too, people living with HIV. What about our babies? You know, because if the science is there to prove that the risk of transmission is virtually eliminated, then what's the deal? You know what I mean?
You know, and at some point, you know, it's kind of like you should really just be grateful that you're able to give birth to a baby that's not living with HIV. That's definitely how I felt the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to go back and think about it, I gave birth to Zion vaginally back in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like at that time that was still something that wasn't being practiced all over the country. So there was still a risk there too, but you know, I had the support from my providers to take that risk. Like, and it's because they gave the okay. It wasn't because I knew that that was best for me.
Right.
I had the support of them. And so comparing that against this is like essentially very, very similar. There is a small risk. There's a risk, but you know, why can't I take that risk as well? So to be dealing with providers that are still, you know, they're very good at inserting their own beliefs and biases and, you know, lack of knowledge into those doctor's appointments that hurts my feelings because I like to think of myself as a great advocate for myself. Very good, can stand up, I can make a lot of noise,
Mm-hmm.
but for that sister that isn't able to do that for herself, like
Yeah.
sometimes, not sometimes, many times, they walk out of those appointments feeling broken or feeling lost, hopeless. And I would hate for somebody to have to feel like that because at the hands of a medical provider.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. So here at the Well Project, I'll always big them up. We like to include our community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I posed a question to some of our CAB members, you know, if there was anything that they would want to make sure was discussed today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the one question was, is it possible to change the current US guidelines? If so, how? What do you suggest? What do we do? Like, do we have to stand out with picket signs? Like, what do we do?
So right now, my biggest goal is, you know, creating this safe space, which is the Milky Movement for, you know, birthing parents and mothers to get support to breastfeed. And right now we're just finding the avenues of support that are already there. As far as changing the current guidelines, we need to follow up with science. We need to follow up with support, finding connections. We're working on it. We're working on it. And can I say that there is a switch that you turn on and it happens? Absolutely not. That's not the way it's going to happen. But, it's one step at a time, the connections that you make, and then finding providers and physicians who are there and are on our side and want us to be able to feed our babies, to help us push this forward and get what we need to get these recommendations changed. I firmly, in my heart and soul and every cell of my body, believe that these recommendations are going to be changed. Like, that's just really, and I don't think that that's outlandish. And if it is, then that's fine, because I think that way anyways, and I'm just, it's very, very, very important that that we have a voice, that we have a voice, because we are not subhuman because of our diagnosis, and that's the thing of it too, is it is not, it is wrong for a birthing parent or a mother living with HIV to be seen as a risk being pregnant, to procreate and to make other human beings, because that's not where the focus should lie. The focus should not lie on telling parents that they should use formula to feed their babies, because the reality is, the science is out there, but even if it wasn't, people are going to do it. People are doing it in private with no support. And that's not safe, because we do have the science. We do know the ways that we can, reduce the risk of transmission and do it safely. So instead of exerting so much energy towards saying, no, do not do this, use formula, and then just putting your hands up, we need to start talking about the science and how do we do this safely? How do we offer support? During pregnancy, we need to set it up even before we get to the hospital to have the baby. We need to know that we need a breast pump. How do we get a breast pump? What are the things that we need to take care of our bodies? What happens if our nipples get cracked and sore? And what if there's blood? What if there's exposed blood? Does that increase the risk? And so all this needs to be laid out on the table, and the support needs to be there. And there's room for it to be there. There's absolutely room for it to be there. And so I just think the energy is being pushed in a direction that's just not functional. It's not functional, and it is not beneficial to birthing parents and mothers living with HIV right now, or their children, because let's look at that too. It's the children that are missing out on the breast milk too. It's the children that are missing out on that. And so, that's the direction that we need to go. is the support and the information, and let's figure out how to do this safely,
So, like, simultaneously, Krista's putting in the chat to sign the consensus statement, and that is exactly where I was about to go. Please, y'all, if you could, help us out. I feel like we are so much better in great numbers, because when we talk about making that change, the more of us, that come forward with this, as an issue, at the same time, it puts pressure on, it makes them have to acknowledge it. You can't just ignore us. In my own personal life, I've seen this, because that same doctor's office that turned me away at first, I got a call from a caseworker from their office the other day, and it was, she's like, yeah, I know that you left us and your doctor said that you fired her because of such and such. She said, but we just got a call from another girl who was in this office who is breastfeeding. And she said, I said, I think I know her already. I think we've already linked, because that's essentially like what's happening. We are all linking, behind the scenes, because we're not getting the support from them. So I was like, I think I know her. And, we talked a little bit. And finally, I found some softening in their office. Like, the lady is willing to learn. She was like, there's any information, I'm open to it, because it wasn't just me now speaking on it. I wasn't by myself. clearly this is a topic that is important to us women living with HIV
Mm-hmm.
and other birthing parents living with HIV. Clearly it's important, and you can't just disregard it because you feel like that isn't what we should be doing. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, that consensus statement definitely has been signed on by some great amazing people, and we would love to have your support with that as well. So I'm sure that link is in our comments somewhere. Oh, I'm just so grateful for this conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
liking the Krista too.
yeah. I love reading the little comments pop up at the bottom.
Yes, that's awesome. It's even great to like go back and read all of them at one time. I,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love this. I love community
Mhm.
conversations. I love the different perspectives and input. This is such a great series, and I'm just so grateful to be a part of it.
Mhm.
Um, Another comment from our community was, and it's more of a comment. May I suggest a reminder to women or birthing parents who couldn't or can't breastfeed that they are no less of a mom than one who did. She said,
Mhm.
I struggled with this because I couldn't. She had initial fever and complications, and I was really hurt. I was HIV negative at the time. I know being positive is to that. We all need that reassurance. So, yes, you are no less than a mom.
Mhm.
You are no less than a parent if you're not able to breastfeed. I know my internalized stigma plays a lot into that because I'm automatically going to attribute it to HIV. Like if they tell me that I couldn't breastfeed today, is going to be my HIV off the rip, when it could also be so many other reasons, why I wasn't able to. But the benefits of the breast milk for the mom and the child, there was a comment that popped up earlier. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know. I just knew that that was the natural thing to do. I didn't know that it could help a woman's body, or even beyond just losing the baby weight. I didn't know. You shared with me some things of like the benefits of breast milk for the baby, diaper rashes and all of this stuff.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I just thought mine
Everything.
was just like toxic fire or something. I didn't know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I mean, breast milk, both my kids had clogged tear ducts from birth, squirted in their eye. If they have a clogged nose, squirted in their nose. Like I saw a meme or something where someone was like, can someone just squirt a little bit of breast milk on 2020? Like, I liked that one. But yeah, back so to the comment about being no less than a mother because you could not breastfeed. I feel like as someone becomes a parent or a mother, you are automatically like born into this world of guilt and all of these feelings of like, I should have done this better. I can't do this. Like, and it's so it's so incredibly hard. And so I don't know, it might have been, I don't know where I heard this from, but there was a quote somewhere that said, like, if it is at the risk of your own mental health and your own well-being, then breast milk no longer is liquid gold, because truly the biggest thing that your child needs is you, and that's it. They want you. And if you can't breastfeed, then that's automatically, I'm sure a lot of people feel guilt. I was feeling guilty about the thought of not being able to breastfeed, but your child needs you, and you're the best thing for your child. you know um and I could go on and on about mom guilt, everything from like what you feed your kid for lunch, and like and especially with COVID added into it. And so I just want to send love out to all of the birthing parents, all of the mothers with kids, and let you know, regardless of how you feed your child, like you are exactly what your child needs, exactly what your child needs, and you are making the right decision for your child. Because it's hard being a parent.
Oh yes, mom guilt definitely extends past this breastfeeding conversation. Good, good,
Yeah.
goodness. Because I never thought that I would be one of those parents that, my child would have so much screen time. Never, ever,
Oh,
ever.
yeah. Uh-huh.
My major was child and family development in school. So I
Yes.
graduated and I was like, I'm going to be the best parent ever. I'm going to do everything opposite than what those that came before me
Yep.
did because y'all did it wrong. And
Yes.
when the child got here, I was like, freak.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh,
No, truly.
this works in the moment. So we're going to keep doing this
I
because this
feel
is
you.
hard. This is so hard.
It is so hard. It is so hard. And I was the same way. I'm like, I'm not going to put my kid in front of a TV. I'm not going to do that. We're going to do sensory activities like Montessori learning, and we do a little bit of that too. We dig in the dirt and we watch Elmo because sometimes mom needs a second to just go in the bathroom, shut the door and breathe. Like,
Yeah.
and that's cool because that's being a good parent, like you got to be good to you to be good to your kids, because I mean, just putting all the pressure on yourself and constantly adding things to your checklist and like having this idea, and I'm speaking truly like from my own mind, but I overthink everything and I get in my mind that if I don't do A, B, and C, then I'm somehow failing as a parent. And that's not right. That's not true. Because all of that time that you're worrying about not doing A, B, and C, you could have just been connecting and like being real with your kids, because that's the thing too. We need to talk to our kids about how it's hard and how you get stressed and how things are not easy sometimes, and mommy's having a really hard day today, like we just need to chill and sit on the couch for a second. And then like that's taking a little bit of pressure off of the youth coming up and like growing up, because then they're learning that it's okay to have a rough day. It's okay to take some time to breathe and like chill out and not feel okay, and then there's less pressure. And but that's a whole tangent in itself. You
That's
know
a
what I
whole
mean?
nother episode, okay?
That's a whole other episode. That's a whole nother episode. You're right.
So someone else, she said, what is the self-talk or the conversation in your head you use to calm and reassure yourself when others are rude or question your choice to breastfeed to your face?
Um, So this is funny because I was just having this conversation. We have an event coming up. ICWNA is partnering with the Forum Project on August 18th. We're having a webinar on breastfeeding and chest feeding and HIV. And we got quite a few comments on the advertisement, including, are you crazy? um, yeah, just I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I just felt fire inside when I read them. And my immediate reaction was to like fight back. You know what I mean? But then I like took a moment and I'm like, okay, is this an opportunity to get really pissed off, or is it an opportunity to like be pissed off but then educate? You know what I mean? Because then you go from having a like, oh, I'm about to lose my cool to a drop the mic moment. And actually, one of the comments that it was the "Are you crazy?" comment. I just responded and I said, actually no, like here's this information and here's this, science is great because birthing parents and mothers living with HIV who choose to breast or chest feed can actually do so if they are undetectable, and here are the things that they need to do. And like, isn't that great? Because now I have 2 children that I was able to breastfeed safely, and that person actually came back and said like, wow, that's really great, and is that always going to happen? No, but it did that time.
That's decent because I don't know if it's just my aura or whatever it is, but people don't often say things to my face. I just imagine that these conversations are always being had behind my back, and it's fine. And I just typically take the stance that, I'll just show people, through my actions and through my
Yeah.
life, so I choose to live it what it is. Like, I'm not set to prove anything to anybody but myself. Like, this is
Mhm.
something that I wanted to do. I didn't have to consult with you to have sex. I didn't have to consult with you to get pregnant. I don't have to consult with you anything, you know. So whatever stigma or biases or misinformation that you hold, you know, may they change if you know you're open-minded enough, you know, to listen. And if they
Mm-hmm.
don't, then you have chosen that ignorance, and that's fine. But for the person that is supposed to hear it, for the person whose life that it helps, like, that is why I do this. So that's usually where my self-talk and my reassurance
Mm-hmm.
comes in, is that it's reaching who it's supposed to reach, it's helping who it's supposed to help. And
Mm-hmm.
this person watching it may not be positive, this may not be their experience, but they may know someone else who, you know, is, you know, who could benefit from, you know, watching this conversation or reading some of our resources, or, you know, even just reaching out to an advocate like you, me, or the many other women that are out here, you know, with this lived experience, because this is definitely a journey. And I think is something to be said about living your life so loudly, because, you know, so many people are not able to do that.
Yeah.
And with something as precious as with our children, you know, in these very vulnerable times, I think that that is something, you know, to be definitely applauded and, you know, acknowledged. So, once again, thank you, Heather.
Yeah, I was just about to say that's why you're my friend because I worry about everything. So then I call you and you talk me off the ledge. That's why we got each other that
You know,
way.
my days I have to call you. I'm like, look, I need to know if I'm being rational or not.
It
Yeah,
truly works
definitely.
perfectly.
Definitely, you know, my whole mantra of, you know, spreading light, sharing light.
Mhm.
Some days I have it to share with you, and some days, you know, I need you like to bounce back over this way, because
Yeah.
I don't always have it together. And I
Mhm.
think that is, you know, just in general, but in this breastfeeding conversation specifically, like, I have seen how your light has shine or shown, is shown the right one there,
Yeah, you got
so
it. Oh.
brightly. It has shown so brightly and helped so many other women. Like, when I get a positive lady or a woman that's living with HIV, she wants to breastfeed, because that's usually who reaches out to me. Um, like, yo, no, I got this place for you to go. I know this girl. Look, read this, do this. Da, 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 da. Do you need me to talk to somebody? I'll talk to them. Switch that doctor. F them.
Yep.
Like, I'm down and I'm ready for the cause. And I think that, you know, as long as we all band together and continue to, you know, just let this grow,
Yeah.
not just in National Breastfeeding Awareness Month, you know, this month and beyond.
Mhm.
Um, I think we could do some big things. I
Oh
really think
yeah,
we could do some big things.
we're doing it. We're doing it for sure.
So let's see. Do I have any? I don't think I have any more input from anybody else. Was there anything else that you wanted to just to acknowledge on here?
Yeah, yeah. So I know I went into like the Facebook comments in regards to like people not being supportive, but I did also want to mention that like it was really hard making the decision to breastfeed Aurora, my daughter Aurora, because I also felt my own family being nervous. And not only was I like nervous about it, but I could feel their energy too. And it was in a way that was like, I'm going to support what you want to do, but there was still that like hesitancy there, that what if, you know what I mean? And I think that was one of the hardest parts there. And so then once we started the process, and I breastfed Aurora for 14 months, and Zephyr, my son, he's 10 months now, and we're still nursing. But as they started getting tested and the negative tests kept rolling in, and you know Aurora was doing beautifully, Zephyr's doing beautifully, that sort of reassured me. um, and I do want to say too that with Zephyr being my second child and my second experience nursing while being positive, I felt so much more confident with him, and I feel so confident talking with other parents and other mothers about their choices as well. So initially there was a lot of fear, and there was a lot of self stigma, but that was my first opportunity to make a decision as a mother of my child, and I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of the decision.
Yes, you should be. OMG, I don't know if I would have been able to. So, yeah, you should be very proud. I think that it's very important that you bring up, the stigma that you felt, from your family.
Mhm.
Um, did you feel that same stigma like while you were pregnant? Were they worried then? Or was it the moment that you decided to breastfeed?
The moment I decided to breastfeed.
Yeah. Did you
Hmm.
get support from your partner?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband and I had a long conversation about it, and like I said, when I was pregnant with Aurora, I changed my mind 1,000 times, tried to find all the research, which is extremely conflicting. If you do a Google search on HIV and breastfeeding, you're going to get 1,000 different things and not know what to think at the end of it. But we basically band together and decided, we're going to stick together and we're going in on this as a team, and I felt really strongly about it, and he backed me up. And we even had to do the hard things, like talk about the what ifs, and that was very difficult. um but I mean, we did have a conversation, and should anything happen, like, everything's going to be okay, we're going to be fine, but I mean, it's hard. It's hard to have the conversation. Now I feel much more confident, and I trust the science
That's
wholeheartedly.
awesome. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
know that even without breastfeeding with Zion, giving him that medication after birth, that was really hard for me.
Hmm.
And I know, now that the recommendations are that you continue to give the child the medication while you're breastfeeding. So that's something that I'm a little hesitant about.
Yeah.
But you gotta, weigh out what, at least that's been my experience, weigh out what is more important to me, what would be in the best interest of my child.
Sure.
And because I kind of noticed, Tom, what to expect, because I was walking very blindly the first time, just like you say, you're more confident now. I feel more confident that I'll be able to handle those emotions, and I know where I can reach out for help and seek
Yes.
support and all of that this time. So think I've done a good job to get all my ducks in a row.
You
Even though
sure
something's
have.
still going to be a little off, I know that, like, I'm not expecting perfection, but I feel
Mhm.
so much better prepared this time. Uh,
Good.
Not
And you have a lifeline, you always have someone, or have a community of women to reach out to back you up and to
the
talk you
Well
through.
Project
Yeah.
and the Milky Movement, part
Yes.
of ICWNA. Like, I don't know. Without
Yes.
these two entities, I really don't know how different life would be for me right now. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Just like, women that are surviving and thriving and doing stuff. This is so, so decent. I feel like I'm a part of something that is so much bigger than me. So,
Thank you.
yay. Okay, we're going to, somebody wants to ride their motorcycle out. But
No. Cool.
mamas
Race
always put so much pressure on ourselves. We have to keep reminding ourselves we're doing our best.
it. Mhm.
Absolutely. In the middle of a pandemic, a pandemic,
Yes.
I don't know, they're calling a pandemic everything but a
Mhm.
pandemic. But in the middle of all of this, we are doing our best. And I'm so proud of y'all. I'm glad we're doing this on a Wednesday because y'all, my WCWs,
Oh.
we are in here. So, is there anything you want to leave the audience with? One last comment.
uh we're here, reach out. And yes, the mom guilt, the parent guilt, it's huge, it's huge. And don't ever allow yourself to go through it alone. If you have the option of reaching out to a community who is open and willing to give you air hugs and talk you through it, because Lord knows we all need it. I need it very much. And so I got you. And one of the most beautiful things about UCC is your mantra about the giving light and receiving light. So I feel like if that's something that someone can remember daily, I think that's so important. It
I
is.
got light today. I got it today. So you better come
Nice.
get it while it's here.
What happens if we both have light on the same day?
Oh man, that's the more that we could
Explosive.
reach. It's,
Reach
oh,
out.
it's going out.
We're here.
All right. So thank you all for joining us on our 6th episode of the Well Projects A Girl Like Me Live. Please join us again in 2 weeks. I'm so very excited for that conversation as well. That is going to be a conversation between Aisha Scott and Destiny Smith and I. It is going to be parenting and disclosure. Oh, wow. That I might cry during that one too.
Yeah, I need to watch
Those
that.
are two community advisory board members who are so essential to our community. And I'm so grateful, to just be able to sit down and talk with them. We look forward to seeing y'all then. Thank you for being here, and we love y'all.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.